Welcome to another episode, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, episode 305. I am your host, Michael. Joining me this evening, Daniel from the Inscriber. What's going on, Daniel?
Hey, hey,
In my apologies, there's a little bit of a slight delay between Daniel and myself, but we're going to keep plugging on with tonight's episode. Normally, we're joined by Gail from Communities Digital News. Unfortunately, she will not be able to join us this evening for this particular episode. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Boxing Report, Pound for Pound Boxing Report live YouTube show, uh, uh, podcast, as well as blog discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we'll talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line, if it concerns the sweet science, we will talk about it. For the time being, the blog page is the best place to go to if you want to find out all information and whatnot. P4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. That is the link. Top right of the blog page. You can find where to follow us all over social media, on Twitter, and where to follow us, where to find the show on all podcast platforms that's distributed via RSS feed, your Spotify, your iTunes, your Google Podcasts, Spreakers, and mixed clouds everywhere in between. Where you can donate, got a Cash Me and PayPal donation link. Let donation be your best nation. If you can spare up a little bit of change, it would really help. $1, $2, $5, $10. It doesn't matter. Your donation would be greatly appreciated. It will help the overall production of the show behind the scenes. And last but certainly not least, on the right hand portion of the blog page, or if you're checking us out on YouTube, just well, on the blog page more specifically, link to my online coaching page. I am an online coach for Beachbody. Today kicked off day one of my November fitness group challenge based around the 10 rounds workout program over on Beachbody On Demand, boxing based program. That's a mixture of cardio and weights. So if you're interested in that, if you want to take your fitness up to another level, if you want to look for something or for a program or routine right as we get ready to go on into the holiday season, check out the my online coaching page on Pound for Pound Boxing Report. Let's get things going, Daniel. A lot of fights took place on Halloween, to be specific. I want to recap as many of those fights as we can. We probably will not be able to get to all of them, A, because we started the show a little bit late for those who are watching this live on YouTube, and B, because there was just so many fights. Um, let's go to San Antonio, where intriguing matchup between Gervonta Davis and Leo Santa Cruz. Strangely enough, last week we talked about Floyd Mayweather and his claim that there are too many world titles, and we had a reaction to that on episode 304. Well, kind of the lightweights and junior lightweight titles, if you will, quote unquote, were on the line at 100, but by the WBA. Davis having a regular belt at 135 pounds. Um, Santa Cruz has the super WBA super title at 130 pounds. So kind of a mixture, a cluster, if you will, of titles on the line. Last week, Daniel, I talked about how this could be a very good fight, but at the end of the day, I felt that Tank would be a little bit too strong and too powerful for Leo Santa Cruz, and it turned out to be pretty much that way. Very good fight along the way, back and forth action early on. Tank winning by spectacular 6 round knockout. Early on, Santa Cruz, in my opinion, had a bit of an advantage. Longer, taller. He used that height and reach to gain an early lead. Uh, Davis had a little bit of trouble getting in there with shots, but eventually he found a way to get home with power punches, um, back and forth action, as I said, and the left uppercut. Um, Santa Cruz, with his back on the ropes, landed one right hand, but Tank made him miss, made Santa Cruz miss with the second right hand, made him miss with a third. And on that third, he slipped and countered with a devastating left uppercut. He shot it from the boots, from his heels, put Santa Cruz down out into sleep. one of the knockouts of the year for sure. Uh, your overall assessment of what you saw. Um, did the fight go along as did the fight go in pretty much the way you thought it would prior to it, and talk about that finish, because yeah, that was to steal the nickname from James Toney, lights out.
Yeah, it pretty much went exactly how a lot of people thought, including like with me, when it comes into it, because while Santa Cruz had the work rate, it it always comes down to the fact that he was always a naturally stronger guy who plateaued at 122, did some damage at 126, but it was mainly against Carl Frampton, another fighter that topped out better at 122. And in this fight, what it did is it showed two things. And for Santa Cruz, it showed that his work rate can work up to a point against a fighter that is naturally bigger and naturally stronger than him. If he can find somebody who a good opponent that is bigger than him, is stronger than him, but is not as disciplined as Tank was in many ways in this fight, then he has a good chance of winning. When it comes to Tank, what it does show is if you have a good work rate and good discipline, you can get him in trouble. The main thing that saved Tank was the fact that Santa Cruz just doesn't hit that hard at that weight class compared to him. And that's a problem for Tank if he runs into somebody like a Miguel Burchell, who has power in both hands, is naturally that 130, 135. So he's not just tackling like in this case, in Santa Cruz, a blown up junior featherweight who did a lot of work and did a lot of flaws. Now, luckily, he has, as far as 130 goes, he has the advantage of the fact that a lot of the champions, other champions, are tied up in something. Burchell, I think he's still free. Jojo Diaz, he has a rematch with Tevin Farmer, and they're just waiting on a date when it's going to come up. And Jamel Herring as well, I think he has another title defense he has to take care of as well. So not to mention, he's on the other side of the street, so he's with Bob Arum. So realistically, that fight is not happening. So it's lucky on both ends. Everybody expected, if anything, it did give Tank a bit of a good audience. And at the end of the day, it just reaffirmed what many people thought this fight would be. It didn't show anything really, really new. The only saving grace is going to be what the pay-per-views are going to be. I don't think I've seen the figures, but we're going to see how much were people willing to pay with Tank being the headliner.
And the thing about that pay-per-view, I believe the cost of that at $80. And I was talking to about this with the Three King staff prior to the fight. And for those who don't know, I'm a senior writer for ThreeKingsBoxing.com, and we were all just like, "The hell? Who's going to be willing to pay for that amount?" But it'll be interesting, to your point, Daniel, to see the numbers for that. I think there was like 11,000 people um, in the audience at the on the night. I see Unrivaled has joined us. What's going on, McGregor? I'll get you into this conversation. Uh, the buzz afterwards was, of course, surrounding Tank Davis because of how exciting the fight was and the spectacular finish. And I'll get you into this conversation right now, McGregor. Um, your breakdown of the fight. Did it go pretty much as you thought it was, as you thought it did in the lead up? And Floyd in the lead up, pre-fight hype has been calling Davis the next pay-per-view star. In the aftermath, Tank Davis called himself that as well. If you're going to call yourself a pay-per-view star, you have to have the opponents. Um, when you look at 130 and 135, we all know the obvious kind of guys in that realm, whether it's Ryan Garcia, whether it's Teofimo Lopez, whether it's even a fight against the likes of a Devin Haney, or maybe in a Gary Russell Jr. who keeps talking about doing this and that, but he hasn't showed him by getting his ass in the ring. We last week we talked about, in reaction to Floyd's rants about there being too many too many titles, and how the best needs to fight the best. My retort was, okay, you talk that way now about the sport. Why don't you do that with your fighter? Given the way this fight went and ended, unrivaled, do you think Floyd will finally live up to what he said last week about the best fighting the best, and put his guy in there against the biggest and the best at 130 and particularly 135?
Oh, I would love to say yes, but I don't think I can. I mean, I don't think I can automatically say, yeah, Tank's next fight is going to be against Teofimo or Ryan or whatever. There's too many promotional things going on, to be honest, for those things to even happen in the first place. I think it'll be the Gary Russell Jr. fight might be the next one. They were like, the PBC seemed willing to let Gary go over and even fight on the zone. That seemed like it was actually possible. So they don't mind selling out Gary, like they just did with Leo. As far as the fight went with Leo and Tank, it went exactly how I thought it would. I thought Leo would pressure him, do well just off combination punching and trying to push him back. And Tank would start to get some body shots in there with the uppercut, slow him down, and then catch him with an uppercut in the mid-rounds and knock him out. That's pretty much what I said all along on every panel, that's exactly how the fight would go. I would love, like, I think we can all agree, we would all love to see Tank become this pay-per-view star by fighting against great fighters and very good fighters all around them. But that's unlikely. That's very unlikely. I think what they should do is put him on Fox against Gary, regular Fox, not on any type of pay-per-view network, just regular Fox, and get his name out there a bit more to the viewer base. There isn't a great deal of great fighters around in the division to really have pay-per-view and draw in fans. So building his name so fans will follow him over. You see, if that fight there had been on Fox, regular Fox, a lot more casual audience would have tuned in. They would have been like, whoa, I want to see him again. But because it was on pay-per-view, less people got to see it.
And probably the reason they put it on pay-per-view was kind of get some recoup from the missing live gate. Let's move on. And I agree with you at the end of the day. Coming off of this kind of a win and the buzz in the afterwards, it's time for Davis to get a big fight wherever he can get it. I don't care who it is, Russell, Garcia, Lopez at this point. Coming off of that kind of win, you make the move, and you make the move now. So take heed, Floyd. It's time for you to live up to your talk. It's time for Tank to live up to his talk. The time is now for both of you guys. Quit peddling around with these kind of fighters and whatnot. These kind of fights. It's going to be difficult to make, but it's on you guys to try to make them, because it would be a shame if there was that kind of sensational KO with him fighting a kind of a mundane, just ordinary guy coming out the gate in 2021. Let's move on to some undercard fights here. I want to focus on Regis Prograis. There's like a lot of fights, and we're going to skip some just for purposes of time. Regis Prograis, I go to you, McGregor, going back to you. Fought a guy by the name of Heraldez. Last week, I hadn't seen much of Heraldez, but based on observation, I just didn't think he had the power to deal with the likes of Rougarou. And that proved to be the case. First two rounds, pretty meh. But in the third, the power struck from the southpaw Prograis, hurt him, put him down with a spectacular looping kind of left-handed and finished him off. So it's kind of easy ho-hum win in the end. The question moving forward, where does he go? There was talk about him fighting Maurice Hooker at a catch weight between 140 and 147. Fight didn't happen. We all know what's happening right now at 140 pounds with Ramirez and Taylor will probably fight in the first quarter of 2021 for undisputed. That kind of leaves him in kind of a place where there's a place of unknown for Prograis. If you were handling him, if you were his promoters, because he recently signed like a one fight deal with PBC. I don't know if he's going to do a follow up contract, follow up deal. What direction would you take him until everything is figured out at 140 pounds specifically?
Well, from what I knew, they were actually planning to have him fight against Adrian Broner in January, believe it or not. And Adrian Broner just got held in contempt of court. He's been sentenced to jail. So
Right.
that's breaking news at the moment. So Regis put up a post responding to it on Twitter saying this dude effing up my money. And Broner said that he was scheduled to have a fight in late January. So that's where they were going to go, was Broner versus Prograis. If I were them, I'd probably look to do some type of keep busy fight because there isn't really a lot to do at the moment with him. They could look to make a catchweight fight or something. I would say probably just maybe a Cesar Cano if you can get a hold of him. That'd be a good fight. That'd really be the best option at the moment at 140.
What say you? What say you, Daniel?
For Ruger at this weight, yeah, I saw that too. Like Prograis literally responded to the boxing scene story of Broner being put in contempt. Literally said he's effing my money up. So that looked to be a defining the horizon. But McGregor did point out one pretty good, interesting fight, which is Pablo Cesar Cano. And it's not a situation where there's any real major roadblocks as far as promotional. And not to mention that Cano, for all intents and purposes, he's a serviceable fighter, whether at welterweight or junior welterweight. You know what he brings to the table, and you know he's going to be a tough test when it comes into it. And it's a good fight. It's not a gimme fight where you can just say, I just needed to get some rounds in. It's a good fight for Rougarou to get some good rounds in and see how everything else shapes up between 140 147.
Sorry, I was on mute. I want to give a shout out to BC Left Hook Danger Zone Boxing Talk. Phil Carl Roberts. Thanks for joining us in the chats. If you have any comments or any questions for myself or the rest of my panelists, please don't be afraid to send your questions or your comments. They're all welcome. If there are any other fights on this long card in San Antonio you want to talk about, be it particularly the Barrios Ryan Carl fight, for anyone who saw the bout, the floor is yours. That goes for you, Daniel, or you, Unrivaled.
I'll be honest, I only caught 3 rounds of it because it was so late.
So, and I don't think you saw it, Daniel, right?
I missed that fight, so yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so let's
I missed
move
that
on.
fight.
So let's move on from San Antonio to the MGM Grand Bowl in Las Vegas. And the monster Inoue, who we all know his last time out was in the World Boxing Super Series final against Nonito Donaire, where he won the World Boxing Super Series Bantamweight tournament. Very good bout, fight of the year, according to many, 2019 fight of the year. and he finally made his return on Halloween, fighting Jason Maloney. I'll go to you on this one, Daniel. I said this on Twitter, and I'll repeat this right now. Inoue, who dominated, in my opinion, Jason Maloney in round two. It wasn't as spectacular a knockout as Davis and Leo Santa Cruz, but it was damn impressive. Inoue stopping him in 7 with a beautiful short right hand right on the button that put Maloney down for the count. I said on Twitter that one, I really hope that boxing fans, particularly those who have not seen him live here in the States, really appreciate and understand what kind of fighter he is, because one, he's more than just a puncher. He showed that he is very good at all facets of the game, offense, defense, and whatnot. I love the way he not only was executing his offensive attack, but the way he was slipping the punches of Maloney. A thorough win. Very complete performance against a really good 118 pounder, who in another era could be a world champion. That's first point. Second point that I made on Twitter, from an offensive standpoint, Inoue may be the most complete fighter in the game. He can do it all. I've been watching boxing for a long time, and you can follow up after Daniel Unrivaled. It may be a decade, maybe, that I've seen a guy who has this complete attack. I mean, he can jab, he can double and triple up on the jab, the educated left hand, and what I mean by that is he can fight off the jab, he can hook off the jab, uppercut off the jab, not just lead, but he can also counter with the jab. The right hand is there, the body punches is there, speed of hand and foot. He knows how to use footwork to create angles, and we all know about the power. This guy's a nasty combination of fighter. People want to say, well, he struggled against Donaire. Okay, Donaire is a heck of a fighter, number one, but you need tests like that in your career to kind of toughen you up. But this fight here, people want to know why underground folks like ourselves, why hardcore heads like ourselves, been praising him for a good 5 years now. This is why. This was awfully impressive, Daniel. Awfully impressive.
It was not only impressive in the fact that of how varied the dominance was in the way when it came to Maloney. It was probably the most shocking thing to Maloney was the speed at which Inoue was landing his jab and landing the right hand. They were trying to do a fairly good plan, but that speed completely threw Maloney off the game. And once I think Inoue saw that Maloney's right hand was not going to do anything to him, he just broke him down. Varied body attacks, solid power jabs. I think it was the first knockdown. I think it was a left hook. And then the way he ended that fight with the right hand. Like, you have to give it to Maloney. He tried to get up. He tried to get up after that fight. But it just wasn't going to happen. And ultimately, like, anyway, this was a good showcase when it comes to, anyway, in showing it to an American audience, because you're in a weight class now, bantamweight, where you have some options. And you may have some options that are pretty good in the U.S. since, for all intents and purposes, unfortunately, there's a realistic chance that you're not going to be able to go to Japan for the big New Year's Eve fight versus Tanaka because of, obviously, the pandemic having a vote. But it was a very, very decent outing. And one good thing that should really, really get boxing fans hyped up is Inoue's not sitting on his laurels. He wasn't saying like he's the best, he's the top guy. He even said it. He's not pleased with the skill set he has now in the interview with Mark Kriegel. So if you have that going along and you're already that skilled, and when somebody that could probably end up at 130 at the end of his career, it's a very, very good showing, and you just can't wait to see more of them.
It's called humility, and it's called humility and the desire to get better. And I'll go to you, Unrivaled. We've watched Inoue fight for years, right? Going back to when he first came on the scene and won the junior flyweight championship in 2014, right? Once he's moved up to 115 and 118, in the past, he has jumped on guys once he knew that he was superior and could hurt them, and jumped on guys and finished them off. In this fight here, to the point of Daniel saying showcase, using the word showcase in his breakdown, it was like Inoue said, okay, I know I'm the superior guy from early on. Let me work on some things. Let me take this guy some rounds, and let me go some rounds, I should say, and let the U.S. fans really see who and what I am about. And he did that and executed it to perfection. He did this with ease. He didn't even have to get out of really first gear, really. It was just slow progression, right? And he just ended it off in the perfect manner. The right hand, the short right hand that ended the fight and put Maloney down and out. Beautiful.
Yeah. The way I look at it is, if it wasn't for just the lack of overall depth in the resume in comparison to Canelo, I'd already have him pound for pound number one after that. He just needs a few more. I think if he can go undisputed at bantamweight, I'm putting him pound for pound number one. He's a once in a generation talent kind of fighter in the lower weight divisions. Is body attack and dissection off of the jab, off of the hook, off of the uppercut, off the straight, any of them is amazing. His ability to transition shifts is, I don't think there's a fighter below 135 who can do what he does in terms of shifting his weight and his distribution. His punch technique is overawing. Like, I would say he's got the most beautiful punch technique in all of boxing today. Like, it's just perfect, his punch technique. There's a couple of things like that he's talking about, like a little bit defensively or whatever, and some people are like, oh, he just walks through shots. If he's able to walk through shots, that's crazy. This dude had a fractured orbital bone in a fight with Nonito Donaire, and he was still able to walk through punches. Gone into this fight coming off of an injury, everyone's saying, what about his eye? What about his eye? That didn't matter. This dude probably could have fought with his eyes closed in the fight. He was just dissecting Maloney however he wanted. And even when Maloney had a couple of punches and landed really clean shots, Inoue just kept coming forward and just jabbed him, moved off of him. He kept the pace however he wanted at any moment. It was never a question of if he stops him, it was only whenever he chooses to, what way he wants to do it. And you don't get that feeling where you see a fighter choose how they want to take you out, and he can do that. It's frightening.
He's one of the few fighters in the sport who has that kind of talent and that ability and that kind of innate intuition, for lack of better words, to have that kind of sense when he knows he has the guy, when he can smell blood and just take him out when he wants to. In terms of transition, the only guy in that small weight range who I can think of right now who's close is maybe his countryman Tanaka down at 112, 115, who's getting better and better with each fight. But the array, the arsenal that the monster has is unique, and I don't care what division he is. This would be unique people say, well, he's a bantamweight. It doesn't matter. If he's a bantamweight, if he's a lightweight, if he's a welterweight, if he's a middleweight, there are not too many fighters who can do what he does in the ring today. Not in 2020. No. Moving forward here, and I go to you, Unrivaled. You can follow up, Daniel. Where does he go? I know the people are talking Casemiro, and we all hope that could happen. The problem is because of obligations as a champion, as a guy who has a belt, more than one belt in the division, it looks like he may have to fulfill mandatory obligations. If you air him, if you're Tekken, if you air him top ranked Tekken, ESPN, that kind of combination who handles him outside the ring, would you try to eschew that the mandatories right now and go straight for Casemiro, because that's kind of the hot fight right now? Casemiro coming off of an impressive win last month. Well, not last month, but September, right? He's been calling out Inoue for basically a year now. Inoue went outside of his nature and says he wants to fight. You got him. You got Obali, who's going to fight Nonito Donaire in December, I believe. He's a very, very good bantamweight himself, very good boxer. Future in a way moving into 2021.
Well, for me, it's kind of a sad situation that I'm looking at, because from what I know, what I've been seeing and hearing anyway, is that Casemiro and Inoue ain't going to be happening. It's going to be Casemiro versus the winner of Ubali Donaire, unfortunately. That's what they're looking at over with PBC at the moment, because he signed like a 2-fight deal over there. So one, and then he's going to fight the winner of them in a unification. It makes it kind of a little bit sour grapes. I mean, if I were them, I'd probably just subdue your mandatories, just destroy them, get them more active, get them more rounds, keep them in shape, keep them fit, and then when time comes, push for the fight as fast as you can and as hard as you can. But right now, I don't see that fight happening next for Inoue Casemiro, unfortunately. I mean, why would he go over to, when they had a fight signed, pandemic hit, why would he go to the PBC if he wanted to make the fight happen?
I'll go to you, Daniel, because of organ or sanctioning body obligations and business outside the ring and political red tape and whatnot. Does Inoue have no choice in the get these mandatories out the way before he can seek a more significant fight at 118 pounds?
Yes, and it actually may benefit him. It depends on going to an American audience. You get to see more of him, and as soon as you get to build more of an audience into it. One of the things that I always afraid particularly when it comes to really good Japanese fighters, is the fact that I know it's become a tradition, but the fact that they want to have the biggest showcase fight, not be here, but be in Japan, where on a day where, let's be honest, over here in the US and more than likely a lot in the UK, we're not paying attention to that. Most of it, we're getting ready to ring in the new year. Or in my case, helping my sister's birthday party. But ultimately, this is good. This could be good. Get more eyeballs on him, and the more people see him, the more you can demand to see him against other top fighters. That's one of the things that like a fighter we talked about before, Gary Russell Jr., with his annual fight plan, don't seem to understand, like, the more fights that you can, without risking your health, the more fights that you get under your belt within a year, and the better that you look to an audience, the higher profile you can have and the more leverage you can get as far as bringing in other people who you otherwise may not have be able to bring in and bring them to the table. So if you have to do some mandatories, good. Handle some mandatories. Have people show up. Maybe by the time you can renegotiate a Casemiro fight, his fan base will have grown to the point where Casemiro can't say anything about avoiding it or say anything about purses. So
and to your point,
it's a good
if those
thing. The only
oh,
time if it gets too drastic.
and to your point, if those future fights were here in the States and um, preferably on ESPN, because I think it was a look. I know that we're in the middle of college football season. However, it was a major mistake on the part of top ranking ESPN to not have this fight on either ESPN or ESPN2. Um, Given how much people were talking about Inoue, given the praise that was heaped upon him by Ward, Bradley, and all the people who were broadcasting about, that fight should have been on the two main networks. You think his people would be talking. You think people are talking about him now? Imagine if that kind of spectacular, if that kind of win, that kind of performance was actually on the big stage network wise, he would really get some buzz. And let's hope moving forward that his next fight, which will probably be in the US again, will be on either ESPN or ESPN2, because that's the most disappointing part for me. The fact that it wasn't either on either of those networks. Mistake on the part of Top Rank. He's too good. He's too good. He's too special a talent to not be featured in that way. Let's move on to the undercard here. And Eva Bartnika, who had the WBO junior lightweight titles, women's junior lightweight title, Daniel. Another case of boxers not tending to business on the scale. She came in over. She couldn't get down to 130 pounds, so she lost the title on the scales. She went along with the fight anyway against Michaela Mayer, who was a mandatory. Here's the thing for me, Daniel. Mayer won, and she won by comfortable decision, right? I'm watching this fight, and I'm thinking, even though she won, and even though she pretty much had her way, my issue is I'm looking forward. Mayer has been talking a whole lot about how good she is and how she's going to go down as one of the greatest fighters ever when it comes to women's boxing. I'm looking at this. I'm like, with this kind of performance, would it do it against the Katie Taylor 135? Would it work? Could she make it happen at 130 pounds against a Terry Harper, Natasha Jonas? I'm not saying she's not good, but let's slow down a little bit in terms of how much she's talking and how good she thinks she is. Because yes, she's achieved a dream in winning a world title, but if she wants to have these aspirations of going down as one of the greatest, I'm thinking if she fights a Katie Taylor, if she fights someone like Amanda Serrano, she has to do more. She has to get better. Your reaction?
First, like the way Renika lost it on the scale, she was 0.1, I think, pounds over when she tried it again. Literally, probably cutting off her braids would have probably done it. But that still speaks to the fact that she missed weight, and it gave Michaela the opportunity to go in. Now, when it came to the fight, Michaela did do the right thing, is staying aggressive, but not getting too caught up in trying to chase somebody that can fight pretty well off the back foot. And it showed in the scorecards. The problem is you fought somebody that does better off when it comes to the back foot, that doesn't put a lot more combinations going to be aggressive. You're not going to get that with Katie Taylor. You're definitely not going to get that with Amanda Serrano or Heather Hardy, because those are the ones that you're looking at the window. And second, I know she's trying to say like the greatest of all time doing this and all that. You're gonna need to catch up a lot when it comes to credentials because Clarissa Shields has already done something unprecedented, and I think in the women's division, becoming truly undisputed in at least I think one or two weight divisions, and can easily operate within three of them. So that's a skill that you had to move up to. I would probably say this was a decent outing for Mayer, but there's a lot of work that has to do, particularly like if you're trying to match the work rate of a Taylor or match the aggressiveness of Serrano or the grit of a Hardy. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I know that they wanted to put a belt on the title because they want to have somebody in the women's ranks, top rank, that will be able to move needles, but it's gonna be a bit. This fight wasn't it, unfortunately. This fight wasn't it. Like, she looked good, but this fight wasn't it as far as impressive.
Don't know if you saw the fight Unrivaled, but if you did, your thoughts, and am I being a bit too critical here of Mayer, or do you agree that congratulating her on winning the title, but if she thinks she's going to step in with the likes of a Taylor or a Serrano and thinks that she's going to be kind of the new quote of the sport, she has more work to do.
Well, she wasn't even the quote of the weekend. She wasn't even the best female fighter fighting this weekend. In all honesty, congratulations to her. She became a champion. But, man, I don't have her beating a girl like Maiva Hamadouche. Never mind a Katie Taylor. That's being honest. I think Maiva is all wrong for her. Like, she doesn't have any strength, power. She kind of fights in the same line constantly. She's nowhere near those girls' levels. Nowhere near, unfortunately for me. I wish I could say something good about her in terms of what level she's at, but she ain't no greatest woman of all time. You need to be the best fighter on a weekend in your sport to be the best of all time to start with. You weren't even the best this weekend. Savannah Marshall was.
Yeah, she on the undercard of the Usyk bout, she won the belt, won a belt, I believe, at 160 pounds, and destroyed the opponent in the process. Let's move on to that card. I'm going back to you, Unrivaled. That card was highlighted, of course, by Oleksandr Usyk fighting Dereck Chisora. Usyk winning by unanimous decision. I think 15-13 on two scorecards, 17-12 on the third. Usyk, he seemed to be a little bit troubled early on, the first 2-3 rounds, but one, his technique, two, his conditioning proved to be the difference over the second half of the fight. I thought around 5-6, he really started to gain control. I thought he buzzed Chisora towards the end of the seventh, and once Chisora started to show fatigue, Usyk really gained more control over the second half of the fight. Mm-hmm. The question is, following when you look at Chisora, who is mandatory for one of I think the WBO title currently held by Anthony Joshua, where do you see him standing in the heavyweight landscape? You got Joshua, you got Fury, you got Wilder, who we will talk about in a little bit. There's kind of varying opinions on Usyk and how he would fare against those three, or against the likes of a Joseph Parker, or even the winner of the rematch between Dillian White and Povetkin. That rematch is going to happen next month. Where do you see Usyk fitting in as a heavyweight in the aftermath of this win?
Yeah, I think he's proven himself, to be honest, as being a legit contender. Dereck was a bad style matchup for Usyk. He was a bad style matchup in terms of physicality and constant pressure. And it was always going to be a case of how he's going to fare in those first 4 or 5 rounds. And then if he managed to come through them, he was going to take over the fight if his conditioning held up. And as far as I'm concerned, he has the best stamina in the heavyweight division because that was just unbelievable. His stamina is ridiculous. His ability to keep throwing that amount of punches laid on. I don't think he's as feather fisted as people make him out to be. If he had stepped on the gas at the end of that 7th round against Chisora, he probably could have dropped him, but he didn't. All in all, I was quite pleased with his performance. To be honest, I don't get why people turn around and they're saying he can't beat Anthony Joshua. What stylistic matchup are you looking there? Does Anthony Joshua fight like Dereck Chisora in any shape, maker, form, Michael? I've never seen
No.
those two. They fight completely differently. Completely differently. That's going to be more of a technical affair. I could see in mid-range when Usyk tries to come in and land some punches, Joshua catches him with some stuff and could knock him out quite easily. But at the same point, it's a completely different stylistic matchup. Dereck Chisora does things that no one in the heavyweight division does. He dips really, really low. He comes up. He shifts his left and his right hand into different stances. We saw him fight southpaw in the fight. Like, this dude's impossible to read. He's like a 6'1", like inside version of Fury in the weirdest type of way possible because you can't predict what he's going to do fully. He doesn't even fight with a guard. And that's where a lot of Usyk's offense comes from, is off of the guard. Joshua keeps a guard. He likes to dismantle guards to create blind spots for punch selection. So I'd favor Joshua, but at the same point, I don't think Usyk's easy for him. I think Usyk could be giving him hella trouble for a while. Hella trouble.
I don't think Usyk could beat a Fury because Fury's
all wrong.
Fury could do he can do everything Usyk does. Plus, he's a good 6 inches taller and a good 50 to 60 pounds bigger, and he has a much longer reach. He can do everything that Usyk does. Everything.
Yes. He can do more.
Right. Wilder, it all just depends on how big of a punch that Usyk could take. He could outbox Wilder for 11 rounds in 30 seconds. 11 rounds, 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and Wilder could catch him and take him out. So it all depends upon his punch resistance. Joshua, I agree with you. I think I would make Joshua the favorite because of his height. He has a pretty decent punch, and if he can get the jab going off because of his height, that could probably pull him from Usyk. And he would have to have Usyk come to him. If he had to come to Usyk, he would be in trouble. But still, I would make Joshua the favorite in that. But Fury is the only one. He's the only one who I would make Usyk a definitive underdog. I just don't see it. No way.
Yeah, no way. Especially with the new Kronk stuff from Fury as well. I think Fury beat him from pillar to post, to be honest. I just really do. He's just wrong.
Right. I'll go to you, Daniel, to get yourself into this conversation. The fight, as well as Usyk moving forward in the heavyweight division. What do you say?
Well, this is the main thing. This is probably going to be the main thing that made it's where a lot of the criticism of Usyk is coming from when it comes to this fight. It's simply because of the fact it's at heavyweight. And because it's at heavyweight, people are not expecting skill. People are not expecting technique. You're just expecting knockouts. So because Usyk didn't knock out Chisora, there has to be something wrong. He can't beat the top guys, even though Chisora did really, really well as far as in the early rounds and trying to bully Usyk around. The problem, though, is it's kind of the same mistake, like I mentioned before in Filipino's fight, the Lopez fight. Before that, like how some of the other punchers, when they came to Lomachenko, thought they could get him, which is to bum rush him. Usyk not only has that bearing into it, but he does have an extra bit of roughness that he can take to the table as well. And he showed it also this fight, along with standing and technique. When looking at the other divisions, Fury is a bigger, possibly stronger, but more unstable version of Usyk. We have to make sure that Fury is completely 100% on the ball when it comes to it. Any offense of that, then Usyk could probably win on points. But otherwise, like Fury, it's just a bigger and a stronger version of him. Wilder, you said it, Mike. Like Usyk could be winning rounds 1 through 11, but it only takes one punch. And when it comes to Joshua, that's the interesting part of it, because one of the things that happened in the Ruiz fight was that Joshua in many ways underestimated Ruiz's skill set and hand speed. And his team did as well. You cannot do that when it comes to somebody like Usyk, who is going to be probably in better shape, who's disciplined, and knows how to take away some of your best attributes. So it's going to be an interesting story how they're going to go into it, but Usyk showed that he can hang with the heavyweights. The main question I have now is how long until he steps up to the table when it comes into the top heavyweights, because between politics and other obligations that the champions have, it could be a little bit of a wait.
One more fight on the docket I want to talk about. I'm going to lean on you guys to talk about this because I wasn't able to see it. Lee Selby versus George Kambosos. I'm going to get the conversation off with you, McGregor, if you saw it. Kambosos won, but from what I've heard, it was a pretty controversial decision. I'll just leave the floor open to you in terms of your breakdown of the fight.
That wasn't controversial at all. Kambosos won 8-9 rounds easy. Completely easy. The Zone's commentary was terrible. From what I heard, they had Selby up 8-2. Sky Sports in the UK had Selby losing. In the UK, they had Selby losing 9-3. So, I'm sorry, man. I don't see the controversy. Selby's punches didn't have anything on them. Kambosos was finishing off all of the exchanges. He was dissecting them well to the body, and he slowed him down, and he had him hurt a couple of times. Everybody, pretty much everyone I know, scored that fight to George Kambosos. And I'm a Selby fan, by the way. I've gone to see him fight 4 times. He lost very comfortably, very easily. There's not much to really read into it. It wasn't the most exciting of fights, but Kambosos won. Clear.
Follow-up question before I go to Daniel. With the win, Kambosos, I believe, is now mandatory for IBF lightweight title currently held by Teofimo Lopez. Personally, I don't see him beating Lopez. I think he loses. I think he possibly gets stopped. What say you in terms of a possible fight between Kambosos and Lopez?
Teofimo knocks him out. Way too open defensively.
I'll go to you, Daniel, your assessment of what if you were able to witness the fight.
I saw most of it. I saw most of the highlights, and the right guy won. But I do understand some people when they say controversy when it comes to interference, because Lee Selby has been the benefit of some good old-fashioned UK home cooking in a few fights. And it almost feels like by the commentary that maybe this could be a case of another home cooking situation again. But luckily, the right person won. Kambosos, exactly like what Rival said, finished the combinations. He was more assertive. And unfortunately, this is a situation where Lee Selby is at a weight division he shouldn't be in. He should try 130. Because lightweight right now, it does not work. But Kambosos won the fight. He becomes a mandatory. Should Lopez actually stay in the division, which I hope he is, even if it's just for one fight or two, because we all know David Haney's waiting. But even if he stays at lightweight for one or two more fights, Theo takes this guy out. He takes Kambosos out easily. And if Selby would have won, it probably would have been a quicker job. So
yeah, I pretty much
the
agree.
right guy won. I don't see any controversy when it comes into the fight.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. Lopez right now, I think he recently had some surgery on his foot, and I hope he's. I agree with you, Daniel. I hope he stays at lightweight for at least one or two more fights because there's still opportunities there for him to make big money, be it Haney, be it Tank, at 135 pounds. So, and yeah, Kambosos, he's an okay fighter, but Lopez would beat him and beat him rather easily. I want to go to a quick comment here in the chat. Put this up. Tony's review said, "Hey, hello. I'm searching for new boxing channels and look who I see." Well, Tony's reviews. Thanks for checking us out. Make sure to hit that like button if you like what you hear right now, and make sure to subscribe and please spread the word about Pound for Pound Boxing Report. Let's move on to some news here, and interesting to set this up because boxing YouTube and boxing social media in general has been a buzz for the last 24 plus hours regarding one Deontay Wilder, who I guess, for lack of a better word, broke his silence recently on his IG, responding about the fight, his loss to Fury in February of this year, where he basically went all over the place. And I'll go to you on this one, Daniel, telling Fury, be a man and honor your word, accused Fury of having some shenanigans going on, basically accusing him of cheating in terms of whether you want to call it controversy or conspiracy theory about the glove. He threw his former trainer, Mark Breland, under the bus, basically called him a turncoat and suggested he was slipping him a Mickey in his drink and whatever, in his water in between the corner. He just was going all over the place using Bible verses to describe his current state and whatnot and how he's going to return and all that. And a lot of people have talked about it and are still talking about it. What say you about all the things that Wilder said? Let me read some stuff here. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, just yeah. Talked about Anthony Joshua as well in this and all that, and just a bunch of stuff here. What say you about all of this?
Well, number one, notice who we're talking about and where we are not talking about. We're talking about Deontay Wilder going on 78's channel and just going a little bit crazy and some of the things that he said, but at the same time, we're not talking about Fury giving a fight to. Some people thought it would have been Carlos Takam, but instead it is Mr. Let me look here, make sure I pronounce the name correctly. Agit Caballo for essentially like a fight to show off. I think to me, like the Breland stuff, that's probably the most damaging part of it. The most part that makes you scratch your head because at the end of the day, Breland did what he could to make sure that you improve, and it didn't show, unfortunately. Now, you can't. This could also be his other trainer, Marco Jack Dees, feeding him something, which is not good. But as far as everything else, this to me probably seems like a little distraction play while the lawyers start going at it. Because let's face it, nobody really likes to talk about legal proceedings unless it's something really major, unless it is something like Canelo, like trying to get out of the contract with Golden Boy. Something like this where you want to feel like you're trying to honor third fight, which on legal grounds you can pretty much understand. I can get, but this is a crazy way to do it. It's something where somebody has to sit Wilder down to me and say, look, all of this sounds like excuses. You can't give out excuses, even if when the people's in the camp is no longer there in Breland's case. You cannot do this where you're looking like you're just trying to give excuses, particularly when you're trying to get a fight that essentially this salvages your career. And if you choose, if it doesn't do good and comes to the fight, it can it can set your family up for life. So somebody has to sit down, like, look, just let the lawyers handle it, get the legal teams involved, and work out something rather than going all crazy in this, because you don't look good spouting conspiracy theories. And as you don't look especially good when you try to besmirch the name of somebody that who doesn't read besmirching when it comes to Mark Breland, unless there is an insurmountable amount of evidence for you to shout out the accusations that you just have.
Yeah, amongst the things he said, McGregor, is I believe you, meaning Fury, put something in your glove, something the size of the shape of an egg weight. It's the reason why the side of my face swelled up in an egg weight form, and it left a dent in my face as well. Accused him of putting something in a 10-ounce glove, accused that the 10-ounce glove doesn't bend in that way, and he said it to keep the smushed up form, to have a loose space. I don't know if I believe that, because we've seen other fighters situations where they can kind of open and slap with the glove in the same way. I really didn't appreciate him throwing Breland under the bus in that way. In my opinion, that was foul. Breland, to me, is the only trusted man in his camp, and for and I'll go here for a quick second for some black conspiracy folks on Twitter who will talk about, well, Wilder receiving all this because he's black, this and black that because of backlash. Well, think about this. He got rid of the black guy and kept the white guy in his camp. The black guy who was really looking out for him, and the white guy who really didn't have the experience boxing wise. Why did he keep him there? You just keep that in your memory Rolodex before you want to go there, in terms of people who are raising eyebrows in terms of what Wilder has said. I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all, the way he threw Breland under the bus. It was unnecessary. The stuff about the gloves, okay, if you want to debate that, that's fine. I don't necessarily believe it. And I don't buy it to an extent because of the first fight. Outside the knockdowns in their first fight, Fury dominated him in that fight. He did, because Wilder didn't do anything. It was just in the second fight, it was just worse. He beat him. He really beat him up. So that's why I'm not necessarily buying it, because it was just a continuation. The boxing lesson that Fury gave Wilder the first fight extended into not just a boxing lesson, but just a thorough physical beat down. The thing is this: if you want to go off on that rant, okay, fine. What is the next step? Who is your trainer full time? Where is the footage of you actually applying yourself, putting in the work? That's what I want to see at the end of the day, because you still lost. You still got stopped. Rectify that first. Rectify that. And you could do all this without throwing Breland under the bus.
I agree. Now, can I do a little yes or no thing with you, Michael, just for a couple of seconds, just so we can like quell this down a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I have, let's say, how far can I go with words? How far can I go with words?
Oh, I'll let you know when you're going too far.
Okay. If I have a weighted dildo in my hand, right, and I punch you in the head, are you going to become a dickhead? Yes or no?
Oh God. I would anticipated that question. Wow.
Yes or no?
Oh boy. I don't know how to respond to that.
That's not how human anatomy works. We're not made of Play-Doh, are we?
No.
Right, we're not made of Play-Doh. Right. Second question, very simple. Wilder passed VADA, right? He passed VADA. Do muscle relaxers show up on VADA? Yes or no?
Did a muscle relaxer show up on VADA? No.
No, it didn't, and they do show up on all drug tests. I can do a simple pee in a cup test, and I'll test positive for a muscle relaxer if I have one in my system. They stay there for a minimum of 8 days. He did it 2 days afterwards, confirmed by VADA. Right, what's why wasn't Tyson Fury's hand smashed to pieces with the extra weight?
That's true. That's true.
As far as the glove bending and like going a little bit off kilter or whatever, as water gets onto horsehair, it changes its dexterity, it changes its shape, it kind of becomes more squidgy and wrinkled up. And I know that from experience having horsehair gloves. And anyone who's ever used them knows this. Most people will do whatever. For me, it's as simple as this ABC situation here, right? It's as simple as this. Deontay Wilder has a hardcore, fanatical fan base who spent a long time coming up with a lot of different ways of excusing what happened. Deontay Wilder is using those excuses as a way, and by the way, I genuinely believe he will fight Fury again and then retire after. Make as much money as he can. Otherwise, he can't make money. So he'll fight Fury in the third fight, probably in May. I think this is an elaborate ruse. I think it's a very good way to create intrigue in a fight that no longer has that much intrigue in it. You cheated me. I didn't cheat you. You're a bum. You're a dozzer. You cheated me. You're a thief, and I'm going to steal back everything. And notice at the end of everything he said, he was pretty confident they were going to have a fight again. And here's my last one. If Tyson Fury paid Mark Breland to spike him, carried an egg weight in his glove, and he has evidence like he claims, how come he's looking to fight Tyson Fury a third time instead of suing him to the ground, get him taken out of the sport and taking every cent he has for attempted murder?
It's just simple for me. Rectify it in the ring.
There's no need to rectify it in the ring.
Prove it in the ring. Prove it in the ring.
Doesn't need to. If it's all true, he doesn't even need to fight him in the ring. If he's got 100% proof, Tyson Fury's career will be over.
Then show the proof.
But he's saying he has evidence, but he's not showing it. Why?
I mean, it just came off at a certain. I mean, okay, glove stuff, all that. I mean, we've heard all that before. We've been hearing that from folks. Second one after the fight was over. So I'm not used. So that's nothing new. Why now? Why wait all this many months? And shout out to a regular fan of the show, Lisa. Again, shout out to Philip in the YouTube chat. Why say something now? Why wait all of these months?
Because Fury has a fight coming up. Joshua has a fight coming up. It's a way to stay relevant. They announced this a couple of days before Frank was going to say Aji Kabayel, which I knew months ago. You can check it out. I already had that up there that he was going to fight Ajit. And that was the obvious choice. Anybody who thought otherwise, he couldn't fight Carlos Takam. It wasn't going to be a PBC fight. It was going to be in-house in Europe due to the lockdown. It was going to be a top 15 guy. Ajit's number 15, and Frank Warren regularly shops inside the German window. The only reason he's saying it is to create buzz. It creates buzz. It keeps the name relevant, and I think he's going to have a fight in January or February, a tune-up fight, which he badly needs after the loss to Fury. And then they're going to fight in May. They're going to fight about 6 weeks apart from each other, and then they'll fight in May.
We will see where this goes, because for me, coming off of the earlier stuff about the bodysuit and all that stuff, for me, at the end of the day, do what you have to do and put in the work in the gym. Improve yourself, because he didn't improve himself from that first to that second fight at all. And I keep saying this. To me, this would have a little bit more weight if if he did well in that first fight. The first fight, he got his shoes boxed off, minus the knockdown. He did nothing. He didn't do much of anything. And then just coming after this, just getting destroyed like that, it sounded it went too far, sounding a bit conspiratorial, sounding and this is inside baseball here. This may be outside your zone, unrivaled. Daniel will know about this. This sounded a bit Hotep-ish. And it I didn't see the point. I didn't see the point of him going there, and I really didn't see the point of him going after Breland sideways the way he did.
Well, there was no point in going to Breland sideways. There was no point in going after him sideways. But yeah, you went into a Hotep environment, knowing well that there's a Hotep fan base that will believe almost anything you say against the white fighter. Because let's face it, the stuff that he said right now when it comes to Fury, it probably wouldn't fly against Joshua. So there's that aspect that's fallen into it. But at the same time, that means that equates into the circle of people that are surrounding you. And people that are decent and good fighters, if they put the wrong people around them, they eventually falter. I'm always going to highlight this. Crocodile. We all remember Mike Tyson allegedly paid somebody named Crocodile every single day during his prime just to tell him how great he is. If you surround yourself with people like that are only going to tell you the things you want to hear, you eventually will believe them. And that's unfortunately, I think that's what's happening with Wilder. Somebody has to have a good long sit and say, like, look, the people around you are bullshitting you. They're feeding you false information, thinking that you need your ego adjusted. But at the end of the day, you lost the fight. You need to improve a lot when it comes into certain skill sets. Yes, your right hand can save you, but that can't be your only salvation. Nobody's going to do that yet, unfortunately, especially in the PBC, where, let's face it, they don't have a lot of top-level heavyweights that they can try to throw at Fury or Joshua. Wilder's pretty much all they have as far as a top name in the heavyweight division that is somewhat credible. Are you going to throw Charles Martin at me? No. Are you going to throw, unfortunately, Chris Arreola at me? I love Chris Arreola. I saw him fight early on in 2007 out here, but his time, unfortunately, has passed. Andy Ruiz, unfortunately, is first of all, like, I don't think Eddie Hearn is dumb enough to put in another third fight between Joshua and Ruiz, because if Ruiz gets his head together, there's a good chance he could beat Joshua again. So he's not going to risk that again. This is all they have. This is all the PBC has. So of course they're going to do this, but somebody has to have a good long talk with Wilder, because the more this happens, the more nonsense that comes out, the more he sounds like a crazy person in many ways. The less seriously he would be taken by people outside of that PBC circle. And let's face it, there's not actually a whole lot of people among U.S. heavyweights right now that are ready to take the mantle from Wilder, as far as saying that this is going to be the real top American heavyweight that can challenge. Because then, right now, the two people are a British guy, and right close behind them are Ukrainian.
Yeah, I'm not going to say, I don't want to say crazy, but I'll just say he's being this was misguided, wrongly, poorly directed. Could have done better in terms of these remarks, and since it's out there and a whole lot of folks are talking about it, it would be remiss on our part here at Pound Boxing Report to not at least address the issue. I think Lisa in the chat says, let me put this up right quick. She says, in terms of AJ, he said, has AJ has changed his style and he adapted to Ruiz. I would say that I would disagree slightly.
Yeah.
That was as much as about Ruiz not doing a damn thing in that rematch as it was what Joshua did. I'm not saying he didn't make adjustments, but because he did. But at the same time, Ruiz was grossly overweight. He was out of shape. He wasn't that active, and he made that fight rather easy for Joshua, to the point that Joshua really didn't have to work that hard to secure the win. Some more news I want to talk about here. You were mentioning this, and I want your comments on this as well. Unrivaled, you was mentioning there may be a possible situation going on in the UK in terms of possible lockdown again due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Address that, or both of you, Unrivaled as well. Have you heard anything about this in terms of the situation with COVID possibly wreaking its ugly head in the UK?
Well, from what I know, next week or in 2 weeks from now, they're going into a full lockdown in the UK. That's from what they're talking about right now. I mean, I'm in Ireland. We're already in stage 5 lockdown again. So I don't know exactly what's going on over there because I'm more worried about what's going on here.
Yeah, understandable. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, it was like I saw like the news report. Boris Johnson, like I think a couple of days ago, gave a news conference, and yeah, next week is going into full lockdown again for the UK, which puts a lot of things, but into a bit of a holding pattern, because lockdown right now, from what I know, is a month. They're going to try to stem this tide, and I guess try to see if they can have it where they can, in many ways, save Christmas for a lot of people, because obviously now up here in the US, obviously we know we have Thanksgiving this month, and this is probably going to be one of the strangest Thanksgivings we've had in a while. And that's probably the main avenue going into it. How it's going to affect boxing in general. I don't know. Like, I don't know how many fights that we had scheduled in November in the UK, but if they don't get this under control, then a lot of fights get put into very, very troubling waters.
And shout out to Yolanda Cortez, who joined us live on the show as well. Got to get you on, Yolanda, here on Pound for Pound Box Report as a guest. And in terms of the U.S., given the rise in numbers here, Daniel, as you know, boxing is going on for now. But if the numbers persist in terms of people testing positive for this virus, my fear is that is that the sport may be shut down here as well, given the rising cases. And let's just face it, let's just go there. Given that tomorrow here is the official presidential is election day here in the U.S. when it comes to the president, given the neglect that we've seen, the incompetence that we've received from this current administration, the role that they've played in the rising numbers. I believe it will have an impact on the sweet science here as well, sadly. And it's had an impact overseas as well. I don't know if you guys have heard. I don't know if you heard about this unrivaled Hirota Koguchi, who is the WBA and Ring Magazine champion at 108 pounds. He had a bout scheduled. We're recording this on the 2nd, November 2nd. Well, on November 3rd, he had a fight scheduled against a Thai fighter in Osaka. Well, for those who do not know, other boxing fans who do not know, they had the weigh-in, him and the Thai fighter by the name of Sim Sri. Had the weigh-in, both came in underweight and did the interviews and whatnot. Well, after the weigh-in, the Japanese Boxing Commission had an emergency presser, and during which news came out that Koiguchi, along with his trainer, had tested positive for COVID. They had tested the day before the weigh-in, which would be November 1st, and subsequent test the day of the weigh-in, November 2nd, showed that both the fighter and the trainer had tested positive. No other fighter, nobody else on that card tested positive, but because Koiguchi and the trainer tested positive, the entire card was canceled, which really sucked because it's going to air live on YouTube. On Koiguchi's YouTube channel. As the champ is trying to make an attempt to become more visible. He has a very popular YouTube channel. And so that card is scratched. Is going to be hopefully rescheduled at a later date. So just give a bit of an update on that situation. So yeah, man, this pandemic has had a impact in your home country, Ireland, unrivaled, in England, apparently, and I believe is going to have an impact. Further impacts here in the U.S. Again, if we don't get our shit straight. Sad to say. I see you in the chat, Yolanda. Yeah, just hit me up via DM on my private Twitter channel, and we can schedule something to have you on the show. And again, for those who are checking us live on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Going to open the floor here for you guys. Any other news developments that you know of and want to talk about here on the show? The floor is yours.
No major news developments. It's just sad, really, the situation with Hirota. I was looking forward to. I love watching Hirota fight. He's a beautiful inside fighter. I was looking forward to seeing that, especially since it was on YouTube, available for all of us. It was actually going to be the very first world title fight to take place in Japan since the lockdown. But I guess we'll have to wait until Friday to see Guillermo Magramo take on Junto Nakatani for the vacant WBO flyweight title. So I urge everybody to keep a lookout for that one because that promises to be a very interesting fight at flyweight.
Yeah, that fight has been postponed on numerous occasions because of the country of Japan in particular has been very, very careful in terms of slowly but surely opening things back up in terms of how they are dealing with this pandemic. It was supposed to happen earlier this summer, I believe, and it's earlier this summer, but it's been pushed back. It's going to happen now. They're fighting for the title that was vacated by Kosei Tanaka, former WBO flyweight champion who's moving up to 115 and will eventually fight Kazuta Ioka for the WBO super flyweight title. It was anticipated to happen later on this year, but it looks like it's not, as Tanaka is going to take part in an exhibition uh, next month. So that's going to scratch that for the year. So look for that fight.
Wait, hold on. What
Tanaka.
did you just say?
That Tanaka is going to participate in an exhibition. I want to say next month in Japan.
My God, no!
Yeah, and that's from what I'm hearing from my sources. He's going to take part in an exhibition. From what I'm hearing, it could be scratch, but from what I hear, he's going to take part in an exhibition either later this month or early next month. And it looks like that fight with him and Ioka is going to happen in the first quarter of 2021. I'll keep you updated. And in terms of the Koiguchi story, for full details, you can check out my report on that on Three Kings Boxing on threekingsboxing.com. That dropped earlier this evening. Just go to threekingsboxing.com. Shout out to the fellas over there, 2K, Bo, Editor Red, fellow senior writers, Big Cool, Bakari. Check that out on threekingsboxing.com. I believe that's the front story right now over at threekingsboxing.com. Let's move on. Let's move on to preview some fights here. Let me get things up right quick. Let's talk about the Nakatani Magramo fight, Japanese Philippines affair. I'll go to you on this one, McGregor. Since you mentioned, I'll give you the opportunity to talk about that. They're going to fight for that vacant WBO flyweight title. That fight is going to happen Friday, November 6th in Tokyo. I got the sense that you're very intrigued about the bout. For those who are unaware about either fighter, give some backstory on them and your assessment of what's going to happen.
Yeah, sure. So Junto Nakatani's been like a flyweight prospect on my radar since I think I first caught wind of him. When was it? I think it was just after he had fought against what was his name? Shun Kosaka. This was late 2018. I kind of got onto him a bit later than I normally do, and I watched him against him, and he just boxed beautifully. I knew about his opponent Shun Kosaka because I've seen him in there with guys like Raquinel, and I've seen him in there with a couple of guys who just stood out to me, like Yamashita when he was a prospect coming through. So I was like, okay, this kid's good, right? He's pretty tall. He's a southpaw. He's 5'7.5" at flyweight, which is really big. He's really big. He's very long as well. I know BoxRec don't have his reach listed, but he's got a 70.5-inch reach at 5'7.5". So he's got a very good jab, power with both hands, hits well on the uppercut, moves well.
So he got a 5'7" reach, 5'7" in height with like a 5'10" wingspan. Wow.
Yeah, it's something like that. That's what I saw. That's what I saw in one of his fights, unless they had the numbers wrong or they miscalculated or something. He's got a really long reach, really long jab. So not something you see very often. But he's a very crafty fighter. He'll fight you well. He'll move off you. He'll jab you. He'll hit you with power shots. He packs a good bang. As a southpaw, he is difficult to fight. And then Magramo, his opponent, he's only lost to Wang Fengay, and he's improved dramatically since then, like beating Koki Jim, and since then, like he's just performed really well. Wait, was it Wang Fengay he lost to, or was it Muhammad Wasim? No, he lost to Muhammad Wasim. My bad. He lost to Muhammad Wasim. GML Magramo. And he beat Wang Fengay last year. So he's definitely a solid guy. First person to stop Wang Feng. Only lost to Muhammad Wasim on the way through, and he's improved since the Wasim fight. That's what I was meaning to say. He's a great deal shorter, about 3.5 inches shorter. He'll fight you more in the pocket, but he can box. And he's got good power in both hands. He's got 20 knockouts and 24 wins. So this is going to be a really good fight. I think Junto Nakatani is going to be a bit too seasoned for him, a bit too big. And I think he's going to take it on points, but it's going to be a very awkward affair for Junto, and it's going to be his best opponent to date in terms of being in the prime. I know that he is coming off of a win over Milan Malindo, but Milan Malindo has seen better days.
Okay, let's Sent that wrong message to the wrong person. Now, my bad. I had to check something in the YouTube chat. Let's move on to, like I said, that fight is going to happen on November 6th in Tokyo, Japan. Let's move on to the 7th, the following day. Luis Ortiz, a multiple world title challenger at heavyweight. He's going to fight a guy by the name of Alexander Flores. I don't anticipate him having much trouble here against Alexander Flores. I think this is going to be just basically a stay busy fight for him. I'll go to you on this one, Daniel. Your thoughts?
It should be. It should be an easy fight, but then again, we kind of thought that when Ortiz was fighting Christian Hammer, and we saw how that fight turned out. But at the end of the day, this has to be one of the steps that they have to take. Like mentioned in the water conversation, PBC doesn't have a lot as far as actual contenders that are ready in the heavyweight division. He's probably one of the closest ones that they may have. So this is a good way to have to restart. We all know that with the Cuban birth certificate, we don't really know how much time he actually has left to
Yeah, he
be
probably
anywhere near,
45
at least in the periphery now. So
probably
this should
45
be
in
an easy fight.
American
This
years.
should be something where 45 in American years. Okay, so that could happen into it. So I would probably say that he'll probably get a good crazy fight because I think he understands that this is his last chance. Really his last chance to get into the title picture and be taken credibly at this stage. So this should work out.
I'll go to you guys to talk about this next fight here. We may talk about one more fight. Also on the 7th in Florida, going to be a card on the Zone. Headlined by Devin Haney versus Yorkis Gamboa. Okay, Unrivaled. For me, this is nothing more than what I like to call a comparison fight. Look, we know Gamboa last time out he fought Tank Davis, went 11 rounds on a bum Achilles. For me, the motives for Haney should be is to look more impressive against a Gamboa who's 37, 38 years old, coming off of an injury, coming off of an injury. The goal for Haney is to look more impressive against Gamboa than Gervonta Davis did. I think they fought earlier this year. Earlier this year, late last year. I can't remember the specific date, but they fought. The question I asked of you is, do you think that Haney will be more impressive against Gamboa than Tank Davis was?
Yeah, I do. I think he's gonna dissect him and take him out. Probably mid rounds. He's gonna just use the jab, the 1-2, hurt him, and then brutalize him. Really, it's not really a fight that I wanted to see. I would have preferred to see him fight someone who, we could get a gauge on where he is at world level, rather than a shop worn guy coming off of a loss on a torn Achilles. He'll look better than Tank did just because, I mean, he's coming off of a damn injury, man. He's coming off of an injury and a stoppage defeat where he got dropped how many times? How many times was he actually on the ground outside of drops as well? 9?
Something. How much was it? 3 official, something like that. But yeah,
3
the number
official,
times
but he was on the ground 5-6 extra times just from falling
right.
over. So I can't. Best of luck to Devin. I know he's gonna win. He's gonna stop him in the 5th round, 6th round, somewhere around there.
I'll go to you, Daniel. Do you think Devin Haney will do what Tank Davis could not do? Is that's actual not just win but stop Gamboa?
Yeah. You have a guy, like I mentioned, that's coming off a very bad injury. And who unfortunately at this weight class does not show much discipline as far as taking a punch from somebody that has power. And we know Haney has power. So this is going to be something easy now. He doesn't really have to look good against Tank, comparing himself to Tank, because at the end of the day, you have to remember that Tank, okay, just got a good knockout, but he got a knockout against Oleksandr Santa Cruz, against a blown up junior featherweight. In reality, at least in this case with Haney, he can say he knocked out somebody that was more of a legit lightweight that Gervonta Davis wasn't able to take out, no matter how many times on the floor he fell. So at the end of the day, that has to be factors into it, because we know what the long game for Haney is. The long game for Haney is get that fight with Lopez. Whether it's at this weight or 140, we all know what the end game is. I would prefer to be a lightweight, because then you can actually say, this fight is for actually legitimacy unifying the lightweight titles. So Haney knows what's at stake, and there's not going to be any major promotional issues, because also, if the surgery that Lopez has, it takes a little bit longer, Ryan Garcia's talking smack, and that would be a very entertaining fight, and that would be the test for Ryan Garcia to see if he's actually ready or not.
Indeed, indeed. Last fight here for those who want to touch it. For anybody who wants to discuss it, Philip Hergovich, rising heavyweight prospect, is going to be fighting Rindell Booker on the undercard of Haney Gamboa. For those who want to talk about it, the floor is yours.
Nah, pass.
You pass as well. You pass as well, Daniel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's not. It's a prospect fight. Like, not much should come factor of it, because that's pretty much all we have to do when it comes to America. We have a lot of prospects. We just need to see it comes up. Like, the one that's probably right now that probably has the best chance right now is the person that can actually claim right now the title, Big Baby, since Jerome Miller decided to be a screw up.
And I think we're going to shut the show down. Shut the show down on that note. Excuse me. I want to thank everybody in the chat. YSN, Yolanda Cortez, Lisa, Tony's reviews again. Thanks for checking out the show. This is the first time you listen, I believe. And shout out to you for hitting the like button and also subscribing. Philip, trying to look up and scroll up to see anybody else. Yeah, BC left Hook Danger Boxing Zone. Danger Zone Boxing, excuse me. I want to thank you all for checking out the show live. I want to thank you all for your comments and questions as well. Again, and for those who will be checking out the show later, please make sure to subscribe and like on YouTube. Please make sure to subscribe and like on make sure to subscribe on iTunes or Spotify or any other podcast platform. And make sure to write a review on Spotify, especially iTunes. Reviews on iTunes are always helpful. Just make sure when you check out Pound for Pound Box Report, go with the new black, gold, and red logo. The old logo with the gray, that's previous episodes we're using. We updated some things a while back, including updated with the new logo. So check out the new black, red, gold logo. 5-star review on iTunes will get read on the show. Again, Gail from Communities Digital News, she wasn't able to join us this evening. If you want to talk boxing with her and well, other things like Dancing with the Stars or even TMZ, since she's basically a regular now on TMZ once a week, you can check out her boxing stuff. Communities Digital News, that's COMMDIJI DigiNews.com. You can also check her out on Twitter at PRPro San Diego. Going to go around the panel here. Start off with you, Unrivaled, for those who want to talk the sweet science or anything else in between. Let the folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, I've got a channel on YouTube, Unrivaled Boxing Talk. If you wanna talk boxing with me, you can find me there. Also on Twitter at MC Boxing Stars, and I post some regular articles up there for people to be able to find that are posted among an amalgamate of different websites.
And shout out to McGregor for joining us. He's joining us live from Ireland right now. So I know it's early morning, or probably mid morning, his time,
424.
right over there in the UK. So you staying up late for us. I really appreciate that. I'll go to you, Daniel, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk politics. And I promise I will give you, if you didn't get that invite to join the 10 rounds challenge, it's coming. It's coming. It's day one. So you got plenty of time. It's a 6 week challenge. It's a 6 week challenge, so you got plenty of time. But anyway, for those who want to talk boxing, for those who want to talk the NBA, especially when it comes to Miami Heat, or for those who want to check you out, either folks on Twitter when it comes to politics and whatnot, let the folks know where they can hit you up.
You can find me on Twitter, Ruckus99, RAWKZ99. And only thing I can say is election day is a little more than 30 minutes away. If you haven't voted, please go vote.
Yeah, indeed. Vote, damn it, vote. So yeah, for those who want to, I voted early on the 24th. I took advantage, and for those who, and I will echo what Daniel said, for those who in the states who have not voted now, please go out and vote tomorrow. November 3rd is election day. Exercise your right to vote and take advantage of that, please. Um, for those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness, you know what it is on Twitter. At Brother JR. Brother JR at Brother JR76, as I said at the beginning of the show. And you want to check out where to find the place to find all of information regarding Pound for Pound Box Report. Blog pages to go, place to go to, p4pboxreport.wordpress.com. At the right portion of the blog page, you will find where to follow us all over social media, where you can donate. Got a Cashmere and PayPal donation link. Where to check us out on all podcast platforms. We're just about everywhere in terms of the podcast realm. And also the link to my online coaching page. I am an online coach with beachbody.com. Day one of the 6 weeks of the work. Not 6 weeks of the work, excuse me. That's my previous challenge. Day one of November, Let's Build Together 10 Rounds Challenge. 10 rounds is a workout, 6 week workout program, boxing based program on Beachbody On Demand. If you don't want to if you're interested in that, please do right in time for the holidays, or just check out my fitness page link on Pound for Pound Box Report blog page, or if you want to hit me up privately on Twitter for the information on that. We have 2 week trials throughout the year, 2 week free trials throughout the year. So if you don't want to take part in the challenge, but if you want to give 2 weeks free workouts, please hit me up. On the next episode, we would do a breakdown of the Devin Haney fight against Yorkis Gamboa. We'll do a breakdown of the Nakatani Magramo fight for the vacant flyweight title, WBO version. We will do a recap of Ortiz and Flores, and we will do a preview of Terrence Crawford fighting Kell Brook. Yawn for a lot of folks. A lot of people just like Crawford could have done better. But the fight is happening, so it is what it is. We'll do a preview of that. We will also do a preview of a first, as far as I know of, women's boxing triple header, world title triple header. Katie Taylor defending her undisputed lightweight titles against Mariam Gutierrez. WBC junior lightweight champion Terry Harper. She's going to defend her title against Katharina Tanders. Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing her name. And also, there's a fight between Ibani Bridges and Rachel Ball for the vacant WBA bantamweight title. So that women's world title triple header is all going to be on the zone. The Crawford fight, the Brook fight, and the triple header will all be on the 14th. The Crawford fight is going to be on ESPN. The triple header will be on the zone. And so, yeah, we will talk about all of those fights. So Again, I want to thank everybody who joined us in the live YouTube chat. We really appreciate your comments and your questions. For Unrivaled, for Daniel, I'm your host, Michael. This has been episode 305 of the Pound for Pound. Everyone have a good evening. Good night. And vote tomorrow, y'all, for those in the States. Vote, vote, vote.